It's another day and another opportunity to worship together here at McLane Church Online. My name is Chris Norris. Thanks for being with us today. If you are a first-time visitor to our church here at McLane Online, make sure you take a moment to fill out the online communication card located on this page. Also, if you're listening on the radio or you're watching on television or maybe you're tuning in on YouTube, we're excited you're here as well and would love to have you learn more about our church by visiting McLaneChurch.org. Welcome to McLane Church Online. Have you been following along with our Immerse Bible Reading Challenge? Well, we want to send it over to Lori, who's exercising and educating herself along the way.
Hello, my name's Lori, and I've been asked to share my experience reading the Immerse Bible. Like me, you might be wondering, when do I have time? Well, I made time. I open my Bible and listen to the audio as I ride my bike. Also, there is an Immerse Facebook group where people share what they've been reading. Every Monday, there's an in-person and Zoom podcast followed by a small group. The Immerse Bible also comes with a nice reading plan to help keep you on track, and you could join at any time. I love exercising and learning more about God in the Old Testament. I hope you too can find time to read the Immerse Bible.
Well, thank you, Lori, for your dedication and motivation. And if you guys want to try to catch up to Lori, it's not too late. Visit McLaneChurch.org to get started with the Immerse Bible Reading Challenge. Anything, anyone, anywhere. What am I talking about? I'm talking about a unique new opportunity to worship. And it's from McLane Church, and we're calling it McLane Anywhere. The great thing is you don't have to be a life group leader, a ministry director, or a pastor. All you need is the passion and the willingness to worship with those around you. Maybe that's the family on the go. Maybe that's your circle of friends or even your neighbors. Regardless of who, this is a great opportunity to spend time with God no matter where you are. We are so committed to this new approach to how we worship here that we will be offering a 1-hour training class at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, March 10th at our Edinburgh location. Brian Spence will lead this session and teach you how to build the church in a new way. Mark your calendars now and plan to learn more about McLane Anywhere. Or you can always go to our website at McLaneChurch.org and look for McLane Anywhere to register today. Well, no matter where you are right now, let's set aside our worries and our fear. Let's come before God and worship together today.
Hello, McLane Church, and welcome wherever you are right now. I encourage you to lift up your hands, lift up your voices, and let's sing the praises of our King together.
Firm foundation, our rock, the only solid ground. As nations rise and fall, kingdoms once strong, now shaken. We trust forever in your name, the name of Jesus. Oh, we trust the name of Jesus. Forevermore, you are victorious.
Matthew 19, Jesus tells the disciples that it's harder for a rich person to get into heaven than it is for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. Well, we know that it's impossible to get a camel through the eye of a needle. Jesus tells the disciples that all things are possible with God. When Jesus says this, it's in the specific context of his story to the disciples, but it's a lesson that rings just as true today. I think we all need reminders sometimes that all things are possible with God. Even something that seems as difficult as trying to get a camel through the eye of a needle. There is no shadow that has ever overcome your light. There is no rival that could ever stand against your might. You've always been with us. Every battle you've already won, we've already won. There is no weapon that has ever left a mark on you. There is no army with the power to conquer truth. You've always been with us. Every battle you've already won, oh, we've already won. Show me one thing he can't do. Show me a mountain he can't move. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible. Oh, show me one thing that's too hard. Show me waters he can't part. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible. Is possible. There is a kingdom. It's advancing at the speed of light. And in his kingdom, every dead thing is bound to rise. Oh God, our Redeemer, he is faithful to revive. Oh, he will revive. Show me one thing he can't do. Show me a mountain he can't move. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible. Oh, show me one thing that's too hard. Show me waters he can't part. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible. My fear I will turn into praise. Shake off despair as I sing out your name. A victory dance I will dance out in faith. I will crush disappointment and break every chain. Now all of my fear I will turn into praise. Shake off despair as I sing out your name. A victory dance I will dance out in faith. I will crush disappointment and break every chain. Now all of my fear I will turn into praise. Shake off despair as I sing out your name. A victory dance I will dance out in faith. I will crush disappointment. Show me one thing he can't do. Show me a mountain he can't move. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible. Oh, show me one thing that's too hard. Show me waters he can't part. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible.
Well, thank you, worship team, for bringing us to this moment, a moment where we have the opportunity as a church to give back to God. And I want to encourage you today to prayerfully consider this opportunity. And to make it easy for you, I would recommend downloading the McLane Church mobile app on your phone. We're really excited to offer this tool for you. It makes giving very easy. We have other ways that you can give through text messaging, or you can always go to our website at mclanechurch.org/give. We appreciate you so much, church.
Well, hey everyone. The good news is that at the time most of us are viewing this sermon, spring is only 3 weeks away. And for those of us who are participating in this service from northwestern Pennsylvania, that is a very good thing. Now, if you're participating from Florida, as many of you are, well, whatever. We're happy for you too. We're in our 8th week of our study of the Old Testament book of Leviticus. And we haven't left the first verse of the book. In fact, we haven't left the first phrase of the first verse. We've spent 8 weeks on 14 words. Why? It's because the importance of understanding the larger context of these words is essential if we're to grasp their significance for us today. You know, the Bible, it's an ancient document. The book of Leviticus is written probably about 2,500 years ago. And the world is a different place 2,500 years ago. People's understanding of the world, of life, of God is different in many ways from what we understand and think and know today. And if we're to take what happens in the biblical narrative alone, from the beginning to the end, from Genesis to Revelation, we have to conclude that humanity's understanding of the world, of life, of God is continuing to grow, continuing to unfold, continuing to develop. A New Testament writer like Paul has a different understanding of things than did the author of the book of Leviticus. There are great similarities, to be sure, but there are also major differences. Why? Well, it's because humanity's understanding of life, of the world, and of God, it continues to develop. Today we give people antibiotics who have a bacterial infection instead of draining large quantities of blood out of them because our understanding of medicine has grown. And there's a clear awareness that in every area of life we are learning and we still have more to learn. We're continually growing, developing, and expanding. And yet, as our understanding of life continues to develop, if we're wise, we also develop a deep appreciation for what people have thought before us. Because we realize that while our view of the world may have changed over time, there's often wisdom to be gained from people of the past, from those who have lived at a different time and saw the world in a different way. Their conclusions may not match ours, but many of the concepts that guided their thinking are still not only valuable for us to consider, but they are amazingly relevant. Jesus certainly appreciated those who had thought and wrote and spoke before him. He's often recorded as referring to and quoting authors and thinkers of the past. And while he frequently challenges, changes, and adapts what they said and taught, he's appreciative of the ancient wisdom they presented because he's aware and familiar with the context from which they spoke. That's what we're trying to do with the book of Leviticus. We're trying to appreciate and appropriate the ancient wisdom of this document by making ourselves aware and appreciative of the context from which the book emerges. And when we do that, what we begin to see is that the ancient wisdom contained in this book, it has much to help us and guide us today. So let's remember what we've covered so far. In season 1, the Israelites are enslaved in Egypt. The only world they know is a world of oppression where those in power exploit the powerless. And the gods, they enable that exploitation to happen. The Israelites happen to be the powerless ones. So they're enslaved, they're abused, they're exploited. And there's nothing they can do about that. It's just the way life is. If you are born an Israelite at this time, you're resigned to an essentially meaningless life of slavery and exploitation. And there's no one, especially not any of the gods, who's going to do anything to help you. Remember, the book of Exodus, it opens with the absence of God. But amazingly, earth-shatteringly, inconceivably, a new God appears on the scene. This God is not on the side of the powerful. This God is on the side of the oppressed. This God hears and cares about and responds to the cry of those whose life is hopeless, of those whose life is in despair. And this God is a powerful God. This God can defeat the gods of the Egyptians. This God can bring plagues against the Egyptians that the gods of Egypt cannot stop. This God is present with the suffering, and this God is powerful enough to make a difference. This kind of God has never been seen in the world before. This God is about something new. This God is turning the order and understanding of the world upside down. This God is creating a new thing, and the new thing this God is creating, it is good. It is very good. In fact, we learn in the prologue to season 1 that this God has been creating from the beginning. And what this God does is create goodness. It's always good. It's always for the benefit of humanity. It's always for the good of the world. And now this God is introducing a new way to order the world. A new way in which one group of people does not rule over or oppress or enslave another group of people. But a way in which the rich care for the poor and those in power work for justice for all, and together humanity strives for the good of all people. That's quite an ideal, right? But guess what? God needs a group of people to model this new way, to show the rest of the world that life can be different, that life can matter. We don't have to exploit people. We don't have to destroy people. We don't have to live selfishly or in fear, because this world that this new God has created is a world of abundance and goodness. And it's a world filled with this amazing God's presence. And with the perspective of this God's presence, people can truly live in a better way, a new way than the model of empire and slavery and oppression that the Israelites experienced in Egypt. The presence of this good God in the world, it changes everything. And so, we have the tabernacle, or the tent of meeting. This God needs a place to dwell, a place to reside, because in the ancient world, gods were understood as needing things like that. Now, later biblical writers would make clear that this new God does not need an earthly structure to dwell in. But in the ancient world, gods were understood as needing temples, as needing residences, as needing tabernacles. So what does this amazing new God do? He accommodates to the thinking and understanding of people in the ancient world to reveal Himself and His work to them. That's so amazing, so incredible. Let me say it again, and let's really think about it. This new God accommodates himself to the thinking and understanding of people in the ancient world in order to reveal himself and his work to them. In other words, God in essence says, if people in the ancient world need a place for a God to dwell or live among them, I'll show them how to make a place for me to live. I don't need that, but if that's what they need to understand and know me at this moment of time in history, then that is what I'll provide. And boy, we could stop right there in deep awe and appreciation for this God, couldn't we? Our God, who's continually accommodating himself to our reality so that we can see and grasp and understand him in our moment of time, in our place and our setting. What God does that? What God adapts himself so people can grasp and understand and embrace him? This new God does. So in the ancient world, gods need a place to dwell, to reside. They need something that will represent their presence among people. So this new amazing God says, build me a tent. You're living in tents, and the Israelites are at this period of time. They're a nomadic, tent-dwelling group of people. God says, you live in tents, so I'll live in a tent with you. But my tent will be different from your tent. It will be in some ways the same, but it will also be very different. It will be more beautiful or more ornate. It will be more ordered or less cluttered and chaotic. It will be predictable. You'll know what will always happen in this tent, and I'll always be there. The occupant will always be home. So when you need me, you can find me here. So in the center of the Israelite camp of tents is this place, this tent, this tabernacle, where God will allow himself to be understood as dwelling or residing, because that's how this ancient group of people needed to understand or grasp the reality of God. Again, later writers in the Bible will make clear that God does not need a tent to dwell in, but that's what these ancient people needed to be able to see and grasp and understand about God. So this is what God does. Again, truly amazing. Later in history, when people would need a person to be able to see and understand and embrace God, God shows up again. This time not in a tent, but in the person of Jesus. But that's a sermon series for another time. Right now, let's focus on this tent or tabernacle where God will reveal himself to the nation of Israel. And let's go back to the things that will distinguish it. From the description of the tabernacle in the book of Exodus, we know that the tabernacle, it's beautiful, at least by comparison to the tents of the Israelites around it. Gold, ornate fashions, decorations, spectacular furnishings. This is not an ordinary tent. Why? Well, you could say because God deserves far better than the ordinary, but there's really something much greater going on here than that. Much greater and much more encouraging. Remember how we said last week that the tabernacle and the instructions surrounding its building, they're filled with all kinds of allusions back to the original creation story, the original creation account. And in the creation poem at the beginning of the Bible, what is one thing that stands out about the creation? Well, it's the phrase, "It was good." It was good. 6 times God pronounces that the creation is good. And then on the 6th day, with the creation of humanity, God pronounces that it is very good. Creation is good. Life is good. The world is good. Really? If you're an Israelite living in a flea-infested tent with your irritable spouse and 6 kids in the middle of the wilderness, you're probably questioning the goodness of creation, aren't you? Just like those of us living in the middle of a pandemic in a messy house with kids home for half or all of the day, we too are questioning a little bit of the goodness of creation, right? And yet, what is true is that there is goodness in life and in the world and in God's work in and through and around us. But we need a regular reminder of that, don't we? Amidst the clutter and the chaos and irritations and noise. The Israelites needed a regular reminder of the goodness of creation among the tents and the fleas and the kids. So they came regularly to the tabernacle, the one place in the camp that was ordered, that was quiet, that was beautiful. Why? To remind themselves that there was something more to life than what they were presently or experiencing or feeling. There was an ideal toward which God was moving them, and that in the midst of the chaos and messiness, there was still beauty. This is why God's people, for thousands of years, have regularly gathered in tents and cathedrals and makeshift churches and sacred spaces where music could be heard and smiles could be seen and the beauty of creation could be reflected. Why? So we could remind ourselves that in the midst of the chaos, the noise, the messiness, there is a God who is working in our lives to bring about beauty, and that all the disorder around us is not all there is to life. Which is why the tent or the tabernacle is a place of order. As you read the instructions about the tabernacle in the book of Exodus, you become quickly aware that everything has a place, everything has its function. Nothing is undone, nothing is lying around. Here there is order. The tabernacle reminds the Israelites that order, you ready for this? Order is achievable in life. If they can order this space, the tabernacle, they can order other spaces, other areas. Life does not need to be constantly chaotic. If the Israelites can make this space, the tabernacle, ordered and beautiful, then the possibility exists that they can make other spaces ordered and beautiful. Perhaps never as fully or completely as they are able to control this one contained and limited space, but still order and beauty are possible. The Israelites are not at the whim of an orderless universe, and neither are we. You know, there's a reason the later Christian writer and thinker named Paul will tell the early church to do all things decently and in order in the book of 1 Corinthians. Why? Because as the tabernacle was to reflect the possibility of order and beauty in life, so the Christian community is to reflect the same. As many of you know, this past year we renovated our auditorium at our Edinburgh location. And if you haven't had a chance to see that renovated space, I can't wait for you to experience it. It's really beautiful. It's ordered, it's calm, it's peaceful. It serves as a reminder when we're in that space that if we can bring order and beauty to this space, we can bring it to other spaces. Small spaces of order are powerful antidotes to the chaos we often feel around us, which is why one Old Testament scholar notes that one piece of wisdom we gain from these ancient texts is the value of ordering small areas of our life as a way of reminding us that all of life is not chaotic and overwhelming. If you're feeling like life is out of control right now, you might be surprised at how simply cleaning your car out might help you. The tabernacle becomes a reminder that order and beauty are possible. They exist. And the tabernacle is a reminder of the presence of God. God's always present in the tabernacle. And He's always approachable because He tells the Israelites how to approach Him. This is where the book of Leviticus goes next, as the Israelites are instructed about how to approach God through the use of sacrifices. Now, what's really going on here is that God is demonstrating and revealing the predictability of His presence. The predictability of His presence. This is a new thing in the ancient world. In the ancient world, you are always wondering if the gods are going to show up. And if they show up, are they going to be happy with the way you are approaching them? Are they going to respond to your offering with a lightning bolt of anger or with the good fortune of their approval? You just never know. But that is not the case with this new God. This new God is always home. He's always at the tabernacle, and you don't have to wonder how to approach Him because He's told you how to do it. He's told you what He's looking for. And as we'll see as we move into chapter 1 of the book of Leviticus, what God is looking for, it's amazingly achievable. You don't have to sacrifice your firstborn for this God like you have to do for some of the other gods. If you don't have a lot, you can bring this God just a sparrow or a small offering of grain. This God is present, and everyone can approach Him. Do you hear the words of Jesus echoing in all this? Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened. I will never leave you or forsake you. I am with you always. That's this new God. And the tabernacle, or the tent of meeting, as it will also be called, it's this visible, physical, centralized reminder that God is present among us and we can access this God. Again, the parallels with the present day church and with the church throughout history are just amazing. Why do we gather for worship each week? And again, whether that's by participating online or in person through a small group gathering or a radio broadcast, the form does not matter. The practice does. We gather for worship in whatever form is available to us because that regular gathering reminds us that God is present and that God is approachable. And you know, we usually need a reminder of that about every 7 days, don't we? Because in the midst of life, it's so easy to forget that truth. We find ourselves asking, where is God? And is He happy with me right now? Our regular experience of worship, and again, whether that's Wednesday night with your small group or Saturday night at an in-person worship service, our regular experience of worship becomes this regular reminder that God is present and I can approach Him because He loves me. The ancient Israelites experienced this reality through the tabernacle or the tent of meeting. We experience this reality through the church, this reminder that God is here. Are you beginning to see how the forms have changed? But the wisdom from these ancient practices still prevails. We need a reminder amidst the ugliness and confusion of life that there's still good, that God is still working in and directing our life and all of life toward an ideal. Life is not as bad as it sometimes seems. We need a regular reminder of that, don't we? And we need to know that amidst the chaos and messiness of life, order is possible. We can clear out the clutter of some spaces at least, and small spaces of order in our life provide stable platforms to step into the disorder that often surrounds us. We need an experience of that order regularly, don't we? We need to be reminded of that truth. And we need to be assured that God is present. He's not standing far off, but that He's here. He's in this with us. And He's approachable. We can access Him not because of anything we do, but because of who we are. His children, infinitely loved by Him. His creation that He pronounced very good. The tabernacle, or the tent of meeting, reminded the ancient Israelites of all these things. Should we be surprised that the New Testament writers compare the community of the church to the ancient tabernacle? Why do they make that comparison? Because this community that we're engaged in across the miles and across the spaces in this moment, this community, what we do and experience together in this moment, it reminds us of these three important things: beauty, order, and presence. And we cannot forget those things if we're to navigate this life successfully. This ancient wisdom of the need to remember these truths, it still speaks loudly to us today, doesn't it? So let's avail ourselves of this wisdom, and let's continue to put it into practice in the forms that God has made available to us today.
Lord bless you and keep you. Make His face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn His face toward you and give you peace.
His favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family and your children and their children and their children. May His favor be upon you for 1,000 generations, and your family and your children and their children and their children. May His presence go before you, and behind you, and beside you, all around you, and within you. He is with you, He is with you, in the morning, in the evening, in your coming, and your going, in your weeping and rejoicing. He is with you, He is for you.
We're so fortunate to worship a God who is accessible, as Pastor Brian reminded us. He cares about all of our needs, our fears, and more importantly, he wants to hear our prayers. So today at our gathering here online, we want to give you the opportunity to share those prayers with us. So please take a moment to submit those prayers right here at McLane Church Online, or perhaps you're listening on the radio or watching this service later on. You can always use the McLane Church mobile app to also send those prayer requests to our prayer team. Thank you so much for spending time with us here today at McLane Church Online. Be sure to stay connected to us throughout the week through social media and, of course, our website at mclanechurch.org. We'll see you again next week.
you.